Usually,
Recording is in progress. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. So whoever's here is here, and otherwise they can join us later, and I'd be happy to talk with any one of you, give questions to me when there's things that I do that definitely need exploration, as I just discussed with Cheryl here. So thank you all again. I'm starting to get my program going, and I'm going to start, of course, with who I am. My name is Susan Bischak. I'll have a lot of different trainings. So I'll kind of run down the list. But first I'll say, how did this even start? I go way back to 1981. 1981 was when I got married, and I was not distracted with going to college and dating and all that, because I actually got married in October. So we're coming up to that 41 years. So that's how long ago I started on this route of investigating what the mind can do, what the psychic abilities might be that I have. And I'll just say my grandmother and her sister, I'm not sure about the other sister, had this ability, but they never influenced me whatsoever. Or one of my cousins, that both of us just went to it naturally on our own. And that's the way they wanted it, because they were very Catholic and very religious. And the priests were saying, don't do that. That's not a good thing. But they were helping people. So they quietly did, never charged, just had a chat over a cup of coffee, and just boom, there would be the information and what to say that was comforting and helpful to the people that came to them for assistance. They didn't know where they got it from, but it was always good. So they continued helping people. So in any case, I came to it on my own starting in 1981. And that was when my grandmother had passed just before, a few months before. So now she had the ability to influence me. It's kind of funny. So yes, I drifted into mediumship and reading cards and all that, just to see what you can do with your mind. So, and a lot of what I do then is mind over matter. Like I can send healing far. It doesn't matter where. The intent is always the most important thing. So what are my trainings? Yes, I mentioned the mediumship, most recently biofield tuning, which I'll go into depth about more. Then there's what I learned to do recently is body scanning, just energetically looking at the body and noting where the energy is weaker than somewhere else. So it's just drawn to my attention. It's really kind of simple, as it's almost as if you're looking at a body and there's a little shadier area over here by the liver or something. And what I do is I combine that with the idea of Eastern modalities and the concept that the illness that someone might have physically didn't begin as a physical problem. That's where the origin of the almost cliched mind, body, spirit stuff came from, but it's very real. It's very real. So what's going on wrong with you and the way you are spiritually, the way you're thinking, your emotions, that all has an effect on the body eventually. So the problem started out there in the field around your body. Your consciousness is not all in your brain. Your brain is physically there, but the consciousness is outside of you. So this is going right into the biofield tuning concept, that there is a biofield around the body. It's energetic and it has been measured. So it's not exactly what we think of as an aura with all these colors, although some people do see auras on people. I don't typically. Everybody has their stronger gifts, but it's a field, and it's called a toroidal field. It comes closely around the head, goes around the body 360 degrees, and comes in again by the feet with that same kind of dip in. This is what a toroidal field looks like. So the dip here and the dip coming on the bottom, and 360 around your body. There's lots and lots of information in that. And it's all energetic. Everything I do is energetic. So what is out in the field, starting at the furthest distance I can detect an edge of your field, is where your life began. It's a timeline from the edge of that field toward the body. And I'm out like 6 or 7 feet maybe from the body before I find the edge of your field. So just consider, I was more recently considering just thinking of people that are empaths. Empaths can pick up energy from people around them. They're very sensitive to that energy. So it's like you're shopping and somebody's walking past you and you're like, oh, suddenly I'm not so cheerful now. I don't know what it was. And it could be they're going through a tough time, but your energies intersected. So I think there's an easy way then to understand empaths is that they're sensitive to those energies that go way out from our bodies. And they pick that up and they're influenced by it. So their challenge, of course, is to recognize that it's not theirs and to not hold on to it and let it go. And that's something that a lot of them don't know. And then they actually accumulate too many stuff and they get stressed by other people's, scenarios and dramas. So I can turn on and off my sensitivity. I remember listening to a John Holland interview, and he said at one point when the interviewer asked, so, do you do this all the time? And he goes, no way, I want to have a normal life. And so do I. So I'm like Abby Normal, like in the Young Frankenstein movie, sort of, versus just the normal person not noticing these energies, excuse me. But in my mind, it's just normal me. It's normal me because I've taken the time to study, investigate, and build on what I have and challenge myself many times to go further. So someone that comes in with a challenge, I'll say, let's see, to myself, what do I have here? Like someone sat down and said, why am I sick? I keep having these operations and I don't know. So of course she'll come to somebody bizarre like me, say, well, what the heck? She might have an answer because, I'm ready for this woo-woo stuff. And I will laugh about that. I'm out there. Yeah, I'm out there with my consciousness. That's where I am out there. My consciousness is out exploring more than the average mind. So it's not so woo-woo. After all, it's what we're talking about now in metaphysical circles and lots of webinars. They're all talking about what we call energy medicine. So at this point, I'm starting to say to people, what's my title? I'm an energy medicine practitioner, because all the healing that I do and everything I do is under the umbrella of healing. All of it is energetic. And to pinpoint, especially that I find it very spiritual, what I'm doing, because I feel very guided, I actually became a minister, an interfaith minister, by attending some seminary for 2 years, pretty much twice a month, sometimes 3 months, with the usual retreats that you go on and preparation for all the things that real ministers do. So that was great. I actually took that because I had a calling like 2 years before. So the funny thing is, it's like, yeah, God, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm going to be a minister. I don't think so, but whatever, if that's what you want. I have 2 criteria. One, I'm not going to go into New York City. No way. It would be too stressful for me. The money, the time, sloshing about in the winter, bad weather, missing things. So the other criteria would be, could we please have it so that they understand that I am a medium and that that's acceptable. Well, it was the perfect group that suddenly showed up within 2 years, and they had been 2 instructors at a Manhattan seminary and decided to start their own. And it's Elmsford, New York. So that worked out. God listened and said, yeah, let's do that. Anybody in the background, could you mute? Because I can hear some people talking in the background. That would be nice if you could do that. I'm not sure who it is.
That'd be great.
So I think
yeah, so I'll send you something later with
I'm going to mute. Hey, Elaine. Elaine is busy here. I had to mute Elaine. Okay, she couldn't hear me. So anyway, I guess I'll go by the chat as to if anybody have any questions. But right now I'm going to go into more about the biofield tuning. Biofield tuning was created over a long period of time by a massage therapist, and she, McCusick is her last name. And she came up with the use of tuning forks in a very different way. She got tuning forks that were tuned to special hertz. A lot of them are A, B, C, D kind of thing, but she knew that certain vibratory levels had certain effects, and she is and still studying what the differences are with the hertz and how to affect the body and what is actually going on in a physics point of view, scientific point of view. Now, what's unique that I had never seen before, these are weighted forks, so you're not going to hear them. They just vibrate. These are actually what she calls the bulldozers. So when I'm in someone's field that I described, starting from the very edge and moving in your timeline, anyone that missed that part, your field goes out maybe 7 feet from your body. The very edge of it is the beginning of your life. So I'm working in, and I would be working and suddenly find some barrier that I can't seem to want to move forward while I'm using my tuning fork. So that's an area of lower energy, and I need to raise that. So I'll do that again and again, going through the field. And because I'm very psychic, I will say, what happened at age 10? I'm getting just 10 in my mind. So I know that's the year, and that's how it's working with me. So they go, oh yeah, that's when we moved. I had to find new friends and start in a new school, and it was really traumatic for me. So what I'm doing when I find these areas is bring it to the person's attention, number one. Number two, it doesn't have to be brought to their attention, because they might be someone so much in their mind that they'll start getting all stressed about bringing it up. And maybe that's not the best thing, because what I'm really doing in the end is I'm raising the energy. Raising the energy is releasing the same effect on the body that was happening before. Now, if you just think taking your timeline and moving in and in toward your body, there's a lot of things that happen in our lives that are major or minor traumas, and they're emotional, and there are energies stuck there that are not optimally vibrating, we'll see. Anything that's not optimally vibrating is not as good for your health. So you accumulate this over a period of time. What I want to do is lessen their effect on the body, lessening their effects that cause any physical or emotional pain, and make your life less heavy, because the idea of this is emotional baggage. The idea I had for this talk is emotional baggage weighs you down. It literally does. These things stay in your subconscious. They are just there, almost kind of festering in a way, because it's not a healthy thing to have them really still affecting you. You're not going to forget that these happened, but always in successful ways to overcome is to lessen their effect one way or another by understanding the situation better. Or in this way, there's no talk therapy, there's nothing like that. I'm just using energy. And again, that's what I do with all the things that I use. So what I'm saying is most people are using that, are biofield practitioners are using the tuning forks, and they might put little papers on the ground and figure out what is the space that I'm going to be at that is 25 years. Where am I standing on this line? Am I at 25 years? If they're 50 years old and I'm halfway through, or 30 years or whatever, and they actually have to struggle to figure out where they are, isn't I just get, the year. Or one time recently, I was going through someone's field and getting close to, they're like, what happened kind of like 40, between 40 and 45, what was going on there? And she's like, oh, I'm not sure. And I said, I actually started seeing a palm tree. So I said, has anything to do, I'm seeing a palm tree. What does that mean to you? Oh yeah, at that time I was going to the Bahamas a lot. So then she recalled a certain incidents that happened a couple times that she went to the Bahamas. That was really awful. So she probably stopped going to the Bahamas, but it was interesting that I got a visual cue that helped her. Let's go on to what other things I do, well, that can combine. That's part of past life regression. Maybe you're picking up things with people while I'm going in their timeline. I can go to 10 inches from the body when you're doing biofield tuning. That's the ancestral field. In the ancestral field, you can find, things that are affecting you, maybe on an even DNA level or an emotional level, like that depression that you always have had, just can't quite shake it. And I'm seeing this in your ancestry. And it's like, oh, well, I was raised in a family that, the glass was always half empty. So there was more of a tendency to depression, or so-and-so was an alcoholic, and I bringing up like an uncle or a grandfather in that field. I said, was there anything with, substance addictions? And they'll say, actually, yes, so things like that can be found in the ancestral field, but that just goes along with my mediumship. It's not unusual, even if I'm not in that ancestral field, 10 inches for body, somewhere else in the field, I might pick up grandma or grandpa. Maybe they just want to say hello. They're just dropping in. So I can put a lot into that session that some people can't, because it's just years and years of me working on my gifts to get comfortable with them and be ready to use them and stretch my abilities according to the needs of the person in front of me. So I'm surprising myself what I can do and the answers I can get with no tools whatsoever except my mind, giving them the answer. Like, why was that lady sick? I mentioned, why was that happening? And I came up with a particular answer, and she goes, nobody ever thought of that. It made perfect sense to her. So I also send people home with homework. You really ought to have that discussion with your husband, because that sore throat isn't going to go away, because that's your communication center. And if you can't get rid of the sore throat and there's nothing medically wrong with you, this is just an energy thing. And you have to open up. You have to have that discussion. So they're not always happy with me telling them that, but that is the root of the problem. And, it's up to them to work with that or not. The scanning is very interesting. That's come up more and more. The body scanning, I mentioned that before. I'm just looking for low energy areas on the body. But when I find a low energy area on the body, that could correlate then to a particular organ. In Eastern medicine tells you, let's say it's the liver. That's usually anger. The liver and gallbladder, ideas about anger that people are holding on to. And let's say it's the spleen. That could be resentments. Let's say it's the lungs. That could be deep grief. I had someone yesterday and it was grieving. It was just the one lung, the lung on the right. So I said, well, if it's on the right, and I'm just saying energetically, and not saying there's anything wrong with your lung, but is there deep grieving about someone who's a male? And she goes, yes, I lost my father very young and I really miss him and I wish he lived longer. So we had then the whole thing went right into a mediumship session. The entire hour then was filled up with a mediumship with her dad coming through. So in mediumship, I usually can ask the person, well, it's always happened for me, that if I haven't spoken or brought forth the person they'd like to hear from in a mediumship session, I ask that person show up. They're often in the background and maybe a little reluctant to step forward because there's so many other spirits of the people that the sitter has known and loved that want to communicate to. Just think of them getting all giddy about being on the party line, the old-fashioned party line idea that everybody wants to talk, but you got to take your turn. So sometimes I have to say, okay, I need to hear from someone else right now. Thank you. So it's a funny kind of, I'm a moderator. The most interesting things can happen unexpectedly in any of my sessions that I have. The other thing I do is biosyntony, it's called. It's using ceramic discs that are embedded with crystalline materials. And the materials that are in them, they're just very, very small crystals of, I would say, different kinds of stones, but that is the secret to Terre de Lis in the Paris area that created these. I just happened to meet up with a Dr. Tal Moore, who had a clinic, a drugless MD in Gainesville, Florida. He would never use drugs because they all had side effects. So he did everything energetically with the biosyntony, or he would use homeopathy or use herbs or anything he could and successfully still help people without the drugs. So met him and studied with him and bought the discs, and yeah, it was quite an investment, but I'm one of the few people in the world that know about it and use it. It creates a vortex energy. Many people are familiar with Sedona, Arizona, and the different areas there at the chapel or at Bell Rock that have a naturally occurring vortex. And you can feel it. A couple of years ago, I was invited out there and I said, I have to go to at least 2 of these energies to compare what the natural vortex energy was to the what I create with the discs. And they were very much the same. Both were palpable. What's very interesting about a biosyntony session is, unlike, say, an acupuncturist session, they would move, say, overcharged energetic areas to an area where it's less charged and needs more in order to balance the body. So moving one energy to another other area. But that's done very purposely. Whereas when someone has a biosyntony session, their own body directs the energy. We are all creatures that live on the earth. We are all biologically governed by something called the Schumann resonance that is created up in the stratosphere, and lightning strikes and all create this energy up there. But all the biological creatures on earth have to be in rhythm with that in order to stay balanced and healthy. We all know that there are a lot of man-made energies getting stronger each year, it seems, that will interfere. Man-made energies will interfere. Man-made energies are the usual sine wave, up and down, up and down. We've seen many times drawings in books. That's a sine wave. That's a man-made energy. Energy that is naturally occurring is a vortex. So the biosyntony discs just put people in a vortex of energy, and their body will take in that energy. It's stored in the water in the body and moved around as energy. The energy is information for the body to use. The body knows where to move that energy to, how long to stay in that area working, and where to go next. And again, for how long. So someone could have a session and it's going multiple places throughout the session, and they can feel it very much so. It goes where people have injuries, problems. Okay, so we're getting back to, I'm dealing with energy once again. If the energy in the area is not at a healthy level, it needs to be raised in order to become healthy. And different organs and systems of the body have their own level of optimal health. So we all want to achieve that and stay there as much as possible. So I have some people coming in repeatedly for the biosyntony, and there's nothing else, they say, that will tune up their mind and their body all at the same time. So they're feeling much more balanced when they go out, and that's important. So that one thing takes care of the mind, body, spirit all at one time. Very interesting, though, that the body's in charge, not the practitioner. Very, very unique. So something that has to be done in person. What does not have to be done in person? That's the biofield tuning. That's the mediumship, psychic ability, and actually the body scanning. The person doesn't have to be in front of me because I'm very visually oriented in my mind. I'm picturing an awful lot. I'm picturing a lot while I'm working through the biofield that I described. I'm picturing all the time when it's mediumship. I get like yesterday's thing, I got an apple and I said, well, I'm sensing a female in the family and there's an apple here. So somebody was a teacher of some kind, even if it's not formally, somebody was teaching you. And then she went, oh, yep, that was, Aunt Sally or whoever it was. So symbolically, I get images, or I'm actually seeing the person usually when they were very healthy and robust. Wouldn't we all like to be seen that way? Of course. Take my best picture, right? So I like to convey what I see and give people as much evidence as possible so that they know exactly who that person is that I am communicating with. This is called evidential mediumship. I did study in England, and I've studied with British mediums here. Someone came over from Australia I studied with, and I actually began in the 1980s with an American spiritualist. They are not as structured as the British. The British want it just so. This is very British kind of thing, right? So you could say the same with the Scottish and the Irish, and there's a Scottish medium that I've studied with as well. They're a lot more structured, a lot more demanding about that evidence. And I agree with them. Unless the person that's sitting for me is convinced the message is coming through from someone they know, how much weight could it have? It's just too ambiguous. It might sound just too, general. So I do my best to get very, very specific so they know who that person is. What's the value of this? And we're talking about emotions. It's like you could be carrying on with a grudge against someone, or you were hoping for some forgiveness that just never happened while they were alive. But when people pass over, they certainly see the world very differently and how they live their lives and things they could have done better. So this is their chance to actually come through in an apology. And that can't be forced. It has to be ready to happen. And the person sitting in front of me has to be ready to accept that, or not. Or not. I did a very large group one time, and at the end, everyone did get their meeting, and wow, I was like, just like flying with energy. But she came up to me and she was very angry, and I said, what is it? I said, well, I did connect you with your dad. And she goes, yeah. Now on my end, I'm saying, gee, that's a bit kind of light and general. I wanted a little more substance, going on there in that reading, although I didn't have much time. She was angry, she said, because she did not get the apology from her dad, who happened to be an alcoholic and made her mother and herself absolutely miserable. I said, well, I cannot force that. Cannot force that. There was another time I had a situation where a daughter wanted to know if her mother had been having an affair like the dad, or the dad had suspected that could have happened. And I'm saying, she's not going to tell you anything she wouldn't have said if she was alive. So just know, all she's saying is she had reason to. She is not saying she ever did. And that's where we're going to have to leave it. So a mediumship session to try and get someone to confess to something, would you have asked them face to face? You think they would have said anything different face to face than they're saying right now? No. And kind of on a funny note in that regard, the first teacher I had said, if Uncle Joe was not good about finances, if he's trying to give you financial tips right now, just know he doesn't know any more than he did before. So may I pay attention to who the information is coming from. If that's their, that's their thing, that's what they're really knowledgeable about, you could want to take that information maybe and use it or not. But when it's not their area of expertise, don't expect that everything is suddenly known when they go over there. That's probably not an emphasis. I can also help you find out about your past lives. Yes, I just got this note from Joy T, if I'm not pronouncing it right. Joy T, as a past life regressionist, I can do it two ways. One, I can sit across from somebody and just go through a roster of all the different lives they had. And yeah, I can do that. But, I don't find that as satisfying as working with someone directly one-on-one or in a small group. I can do small groups. I want to make sure everybody's, progressing okay and everybody's comfortable and everybody feels safe. So then I will do small groups. And then one-on-one is when you really get into the depth of something, because in a small group, it's still not terribly private and you don't want to air every, deep-seated thing you have to deal with the group. It's distracting to them. So we need a one-on-one for some deep healing and deep exploration. I cannot guarantee people can see and sense what I do. It's interesting that I can see what the other person does not when I'm doing a one-on-one, but I like it if they can see it themselves, because that's much more therapeutic, that's much more believable. And then they understand they're in control of what's going on. And it's never me, it's never the person doing the hypnosis. And I study hypnosis for the pure reason of wanting to do past life regressions, because for me, it's like watching a movie starring me. I get the senses, I get what I'm looking at, and what body I'm in, what am I wearing, what am I eating. It was very much real to me. And Joe T, you said you're having a few things that are haunting you that you'd like to hear, have a deep healing with. When I do the past life regressions, I want to do them in person, which is a bit of a hindrance, unfortunately. I know some people will not do it in person. They're comfortable doing that. I just think ethically, I want to know what's going on with you, because you could be having things going on that visually I need to be aware of. Because I don't always know exactly what situation you're in and how traumatically you may be reacting to it. So for a safety check, I want to be there so I could bring you out of it right away if it's too much, if it's actually going to be deleterious to you, if it's coming on too strong. So for the safety, and to me, that's ethics, I want to be in person with you. Over the phone, I'm sure I could run through things, but it won't have that same dramatic effect, and actually so therapeutic, although I can't say do any therapy, but it'd be more helpful if I was in person with someone. And as far as seeing ghosts, I don't see them all the time. What was the first time I saw a ghost? That was when I went into the Ringwood Manor. Ringwood Manor is a place in Ringwood, New Jersey. That's going back into the Revolutionary War time. And before that, they were a family, the Hewitts, that had iron. There are a lot of iron mines there. And so they were using that to make cannonballs and cannons and things like that. So that was their business. So I walked in once when I was in 6th grade, and everybody was waiting in a vestibule for our time to get a tour of the house. And I noticed this shady shape come in the room and kind of sit in a chair in front of me, and like, wow, I'm looking left and right. Nobody ever saw who this person was, and seemed nice energy, but it was just this cloudy shape, and no one noticed it. Kind of funny. So years later, I was at a tour, and they were, there because we're going to see who ghost-wise we might notice in the house. And someone piped up right away, oh, that was probably Mrs. Hewitt. She always liked to be visiting with the children when they came. So I would have to say that was Mrs. Hewitt. Do I always see ghosts all the time? No, but sometimes they pop up in a session. I had someone and found out that the ghost wanted to stop making this guy sick. That's what we were dealing with. He was sick and sick and sick and was just getting worse. He thought he was going to die. He's gone to all sorts of specialists. So anyway, this kind of ghost kind of popped up behind him, much to my surprise. And I said, well, and I described the whole thing. And it was really funny. But ghosts do come to me if I'm in a house that has ghosts in it and they want to go to the light. They don't want to stay where they are. They want to move on. So I'll see, I'm telling here, I want since childhood. I don't know what we can do that. So Cheryl and Jim, to me, only you are seeing this chat. I have to get in my, oh, okay, Cheryl, see you later. Thanks for joining me. I work with Cheryl. One of the things I do that I didn't mention yet is I am a clinical thermographer. So I take images of the body with Cheryl's camera. I'm the technician, and I'm using infrared photography, infrared camera. And that records the body energetically. It shows up in different colors. And these colors have a lot of meaning as to what's going on in the body. But the analysis is done by medical doctors. I give them all the information of the intake historically of the person and their complaints. I send that with the pictures. The doctors send back the report. And it's very, very valuable to figure out what's going on in the body. Certainly more specific than me scanning. because I'm scanning just energetically. I'm not scanning for real physical problems. So it's kind of funny thing that I can do that technically. Anybody have any other particular questions? I'm looking at the chat there to see if anybody does. And people came in at different times to discuss this. But anyway, I'm very happy that I can combine a lot of different things in my sessions. And one of the things I have done, to walk my talk is what I call a soul retrieval. You may have heard shamans talk about soul retrieval. And, what does that mean? It means very similar to what I described with the biofield tuning, that the different things that have happened in your life that are traumatic are leaving an energetic impression out in your biofield that you're kind of carrying around. And the more you have that doesn't get relieved, the more burden you have and the more effect it has on your life to make it more negative than it needs to be is a quick way of saying it. You want to be as positive and happy and up as you can be. And if you have too much baggage that you're carrying around that's unresolved issues, then that's a big deal. And it should be addressed. And, I have my various ways of doing that. So I wrote a book because I had my own unresolved issues. You can see it on my website. And of course, it's probably backwards. So it's Healing a Desperate Heart. I did that like 4 years ago. I got it published and it's out there. And the people are drawn to the book. And several people have said they read it in half a day or just 3 hours. Because it's a page turner, it's a memoir. It's my struggle to come to terms with two really big issues in my life with relationships. Relationships teach you a whole lot. But in the preface, which I am offering to people if they want it, the preface has a lot of information. If you never read more than that, I think you get a lot of insight into your own life and how you might apply it to your own life. So in the preface, I have an example of the mind-body connection. A friend of mine, I still know, is a Japanese American citizen. So when he found that he had a particular kind of cancer, he could have stayed in the United States, but he chose to go to Japan. So he went to Japan and he had a team of people come in and talk to him. And one of the first things they did is hand him a journal. And they said to him, "We would like you to write, to think about how you attracted this particular disease to your body." That was like the first thing he said they talked about. So yes, they took care of any physical needs that had to happen. There was a surgery. And this was a very long time ago and still a healthy guy, but he had to figure out, and he finally did. In his culture, he was not allowed to say no to his father's wishes, his father's direction for his life. But he wanted to have life his way. So he didn't realize that subconsciously, he was then telling his body that if he was sick enough, his father could not insist. So that would like save face because he never said no, but he got sick so that he couldn't do that. So that was something that turned him around. So from then on, he understood. And I understood from that incredible example how your beliefs, how your mind affects your body. Let's say you're having a panic attack. That's all in your mind, but it's affecting your body. It just automatically starts sending out the bells and whistles, all that stuff churning out from your adrenal glands that will raise the blood pressure. The heart rate will go up. You could get a headache. You could feel very ill, and all in just a few moments with an anxiety attack. So I've had to understand how to stop them because I had to teach myself. You got to stop your thoughts from going where you don't want them to go, to stop signaling your body to have that anxiety attack. Pretty simple to say, very difficult until you understand and monitor your thoughts. And that's what's in control of your body. So we're in a very stressful time. So I'll have to point out that even with myself, I have to remind myself every day that goes by is another day of your life. How much time do you want to spend stressing? How much time do you want to spend searching on the web for the negativity? How much time do you want to spend bringing lightness and joy and happiness in your life each day? So try and get that balance. Don't forget, every day is a gift. And none of us know for sure how many days we have in that gift of life. So the book, back to that. Yeah, it's a memoir. So I went through and I dealt with my issues. I took it head on, and I was very adamant that for me, this is the way I had to go to straighten it out. Because like my friend that went to Japan, I did not want these two really big emotional impacts on me to become physical someday. So I would say that's walking my talk. But in the end, going back around to the soul retrieval, in the end, that's what I realized I had done. So when you think of a soul retrieval a little bit differently, it's you are trying to bring back pieces of your soul that got stuck out in the energy field that need to be incorporated back into you so that you become whole again. That's a soul retrieval. I do it my own way with the biofield tuning. It's very similar to me in its effect. It is not exactly, of course, the way a shaman would do it. And I didn't study with a shaman to do that. I'm really glad biofield tuning came along because it can incorporate a lot of my gifts right into one session. And any session someone has with me, if it's in person, I can go different places. I can do a body scan. I can do some mediumship. I can do some intuitive counseling, all in one session. And yesterday's started with, oh, I see a low energy, as I mentioned, in the lung, which led to what male have had an effect on you, that you're grieving, and went right into dad. So the entire session was guided by spirit to be, it's got to be all about dad. There was nothing else, although she was open to whatever I felt we needed to do. But her dad came through so strongly and so lovingly that that's what the session was. So it was wonderful. Really, it was very loving session with the dad, and covered a lot of ground with things in her life that she was aware of, needs to look at a little more carefully, etc. I could have gone into doing card readings, but you know what happens? People come to me and they want me to make decisions in their life that must be their own. And after a few times of getting pressured in the session, I simply said, look, this is just my opinion with the information you gave me. Let's just say it's not spiritual. The facts are the facts, and this is the way I'm looking at the facts. But hey, it's not my karma. It's your karma. Every decision you make is, there's a cause and effect. And I don't want to somehow accidentally steer you the wrong way. And I don't know what your lessons are in life, what you need to learn. And a lot of those lessons are not pleasant to learn. But when you get the lesson, hopefully then you are not going to repeat again and again. Still looking if anybody has any particular questions. I can go on to say that I have gone with my cousin, and I can do it on my own, but I've gone with my cousin into historical homes. And we have sat with the Historical Society, which knew plenty about that home. But the point of our visit was to interact with someone that was still in the house. In this case, the name was Elizabeth, and it's a Van Allen house in Oakland, New Jersey. It's been there for many, many years. So first thing we went in the house, we were shown, oh, this little room over here is the museum room. Well, the light went out. Interesting. Didn't shake my cousin and I, like, whoop, that's cool. All right. So there were some men upstairs getting busy putting together one of those old-fashioned beds that have ropes. And my cousin and I said, let's go upstairs, because they were milling around downstairs getting set up for their meeting with us. So we went upstairs and connected with, I got the name Elizabeth. So like, okay, so Elizabeth's here. And we made sure that we were not there like some ghost hunters to disturb them and pressure them to turn on lights and off or whatever, play games. No, we said we're just there respectfully. If she could give us information, insights about her life personally as an occupant, we would appreciate that. And the people downstairs waiting would. So we went downstairs, and interesting, some lady came in, said, I just put brand new batteries into my recording device here. And can I record? And then my cousin and I said, oh, sure, you can do that. So she couldn't record, she found out. And I said, well, probably because the spirit kind of drained all the batteries out. This is not unusual to happen. So she went out to her car and got a new set of batteries, and we asked them not to do that again. And she, as far as I know, she recorded the session. But it was interesting hearing her point of view. And then a neighbor came through that was next door. And someone from down the street even knew it was an ex-slave who actually was given his freedom and kept on where he was living and working, because the owner considered him more like family, and he had nowhere to go. So he's well known by one of the historic members of the society there. She is very steeped in the local lore, and she knew exactly who that was and what his name was, where he lived. And I think it's in the building I'm doing thermography or the house next door. So that's cool. That's cool. So a lot of interesting things can happen and unexpectedly in my sessions. So I kind of get a thrill too. Whenever someone sits down with me, I have no idea where we're going, what we're doing, what kind of, gift I'm using to help them out. But in the end, they do get help. And I will read from Cheryl's synopsis. I work with Cheryl again. She's the one that owns the camera for the thermography. I said, Cheryl, could you sum up what I do to help people? And it was to provide comfort and guidance to people who need healing from some sort of trauma or challenge in life using energy-based modalities and my gifts of inherited psychic intuitive abilities. And I thought that was good. Okay, so Jyoti, I think it must be Jyoti. She's still having a tough line. She's discussing her past lives. So I do send healing, and it's usually through the biofield tuning, and I might add stuff to it energetically. If I can tell that someone else is coming in that energetically, I'm only dealing with good energies if they're going to add to it. There's definitely a boost noticed on the receiving end. So how far have I sent it? I have sent it to England. Someone's father was feeling very ill and was in bed for 3 days, and he wouldn't get out of bed because he thought he was dying. So I did. I only had a picture she briefly sent me on her cell phone, and it was the intent. And intent is everything. So the man got it. He got out of bed the next day and didn't feel like he was dying anymore. So she was happy, and so was I. I sent it to my brother in Colorado. He had been visiting. He went back home to Colorado, and I said, how you doing? And he told me how terrible he was feeling, short of breath, heart palpitations, and all this unexpectedly. So I worked on him, and I called the next day, how you doing? He said, oh, I'm up and around. I'm going to Delta in Colorado, and I'm going to do some errands. And he felt just fine. Wonderful. So I did that to another friend. And the next day, actually right away, she started feeling fine. She was diabetic, and I started getting somehow, the blood sugar was going back to normal. So she was feeling healthy again. And that continued the next day. Her blood sugar was normal and on that way. So I can do help people. She was in Connecticut. My brother's in Colorado. I've sent it to Alaska. I've sent it to New Mexico. I've done readings with people in Colorado and California and all. And one of the funny ones I'll put in near the end of this talk here is, as I said, some unexpected things come up, and I'm like, well, that's a new one. So I have a call from someone. They were recommended to call me. And I thought it was a regular mediumship thing. And so I started bringing up some lady, and she, oh yeah, well, that's the mother of a friend of mine who recently passed. Okay, so there was a message there. She got the message, and then something made me hesitate and say, so why did you really call? She said, we have a ghost in the house. Oh, well, shift gears here. What are we doing now? So she said, well, he's scaring the children, and they'd be in bed and he'd scare them. I said, well, that's to get your attention. So what does he want this attention for? I said, well, we want to stay in this house. It's rented. It's a very unique and an interesting house. My parents are here with me, the kids. So there's about 6 of us here. And we're happy to stay here if he would just stop scaring the children. So it all came down to, at the end, I ended up having a 3-way conference with the husband, the wife, and the ghost in the house. Turns out, him giving proof that he actually designed the house and he was still attached to it and not ready to move on until I was giving him that option. I said previously that, ghosts seem to find me when they know it's time to move on and they want some help doing that. So in this case, I don't know how this ghost arranged that I should be contacted through these people who happen to know someone I had a previous session with to get us all together on the phone and have a counseling. So there was an agreement. Gary, I think his name was the ghost, and Gary was told that he could stay if he wants, as long as he stops scaring the children, that's fine. If he chooses to move on, I said that would be the better choice. And kind of left it at that. He proved he designed the house because he showed me in my mind support pillars in the house. So I asked the couple, do you have support pillars in the house? And they said, yes, we do. I said, so then Gary is proving he had an attachment to the house because he designed it. So if I don't hear from you, I will assume everything's fine. And I never heard from them again. So I think however it was working out, it worked out well. So my sessions can take me all over the place. I have no idea, but it's all in the mind. I would say I'm working on the quantum level. I'm working on different levels energetically. There are different techniques and tools that I have that I've developed over the years. And again, I'm often challenged and surprised by things that come up, and I just take them on. And I ultimately want to get the answers for the people that they're not getting any other way. Like a sick boy came in, he had sore throat, all these kind of things go wrong. Never a thing could the doctors find with many tests. And it turned out he had broken up with the girlfriend and it was just affecting them horrifically on an energetic, physical way. And so I did some hands-on healing, which I can do. Got his breathing to slow down and calmed. His father was there. He watched the whole thing and it all made complete sense. That was from scanning the body. It all went to the communication. I mentioned that once before about the throat and something about the heart. So I knew it wasn't physically his heart. It was the heartache, the heartbreak, the difficulty breaking up with the girlfriend that he felt he needed to do. So we're pretty much near the end. If anybody has anything else to say, Jyoti, you can find me at susanbischak11@gmail, or you can give me a call sometime, 973-838-7211. That's my cell phone, but I would not do a past life over the phone for in-depth work. And people can find me at susanbischak.com. That's BISCHAK. And you'll get more in-depth information on that website as to my trainings, which also includes being a certified nutrition counselor. The list just goes on and on. Just know I have a lot of tools at my disposal. Okay, anyone wants to send me a message through Facebook, you certainly can do that too. So that's just Susan Bischak on Facebook. I think it's listed as Susan E. Bischak, but all my friends just find me as Susan Bischak. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. I was kind of all over the place, but there was a lot of different facets of what I do that I'm trying to illustrate that can be helpful to you, depending on your challenge. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations that are today and the rest of the weekend, and know that you can see all of these things. They're going to be recorded, and for 90 days, that's up to December 25. Wonderful Kimberly who put a lot into this, and Terrell down in Florida. They all worked very hard to present this for all of you, for all of your benefit. And I hope you find people you want to work with and help make your life better. Thank you. Bye-bye.